But if he didn't show up, it would probably melt by tomorrow. But you never know, right? Could end up being solid as a rock for a week too. So that's the deal with that. So nice to hear you on. Running 1.446 at the moment kilowatts off of this lovely G2. K1GMM from KI1N.
Okay. I forgot to bump the amp. Okay, so let me get things wound up here. What do we got? No reflected. Let's bring her up here. There's about 600, 700, so that should be okay. We got pure signal working on the G2. Hey, score. Anyways, yeah, well, you got more snow than we've got. It is a barren situation here. Not much snow for, the holiday season yet. I guess it remains to be seen. But, yeah, I hope all is well. I don't know what you've been up to. I am on the G2 today. I decided to light this thing up, running it standalone, and pushing audio from a rack into a sound card plugged into the USB port. So it's been a while since I've used it. I have to learn how to run it again, Bob. Over.
I hate when that happens. I was doing something the other day, and somebody asked me something about the 7300, and I said, "Oh yeah, well that's in their menu." I had to go start searching in the menus, and I guess I haven't used it in a year or so. But you have to kind of reacquaint yourself with the turns in the road, so to speak. But yeah, we got coverage here, and it's kind of a shame because
Mud Duck?
I have an issue with my water line from the street coming to the house, and so I'm losing 4 gallons a minute, they tell me, and there's no sign of it anywhere on the property. But I did notice a slight depression in the lawn, like a sinkhole was going to form kind of thing. It hadn't yet. But I get those from time to time because of the trees I've taken down, and that's just the stumps underground decaying. But this one, maybe not so much. But of course, now you cannot see the depression because the snow has leveled everything out. So, and it's a very subtle depression. So they're going to have to just come in and dig, I guess, until they find it. Of course, they've already warned me it's going to be 5,000 or more, and they don't want any excuses like, "Oh, I got to go find some money somewhere," I guess. So that's kind of what I've been up to. And I retired last week, believe it or not. So I'm now a lazy old bum. But I started a new project, writing a book, which I'm kind of circumspect about it, but enough people have suggested it, so I'm going to give it a shot. And I started, I have an outline, and about 10 pages in, and I've decided, you know what, the timeline is just not right, and I think I'm going to start over. So that's what happens, right? It's an iterative process, and that's why these things take a year or more, because you start off and say, this sucks, or you say, well, it's just not working. And I think I'm going to go back and attack it from a different angle. So I've got some, still some good research on it, and some facts in there that I'll just move, I guess it'll take a good year to get something finalized and rewritten like 20 times. I think when you write a book, you actually write 20 books because you go back and forth a number of times. It's like student theses, right?
Sup, Elmer?
It takes 3 years for those typically, and that's because of all the rewriting.
You
K1GMM,
maniac.
KI1N. What have you been up to?
Wow, dude. You are going to be a busy boy. And congratulations on your retirement. I think the last time did you mention that last time we talked? I can't remember. Not much. Not much. I'm, and it seems like a constant state of flux. I've been playing a lot of AM lately. And this is my first sideband in, oh my gosh, dude, I don't know, 3 weeks maybe. But I've got a day today. I decided I got some things I got to do radio-wise, but not radio-wise, outside in the garage. So I'm going to do that coming up here later. And yeah, oh, it's funny what you mentioned. You know how I said I can't remember how to run the radio. I just put the 7300 in line, so I was looking to get on 60 meters, and looks like I'm getting a little popping. I'm on a crappy headset here. Move that down away from my mouth a bit. So I want to get on 60 meters, and of course the G2 and the Sun, they don't have internal tuners. And so I brought the 7300 in line, and good grief, dude. It's been a long time since I ran that radio. So I was able to get it running, and I don't know if you play on 60 meters at all. Kind of an interesting band. I was on the other morning, and I was curious about how it propagates, you know. So I lit up some Zombie, did some Zombie. I had no tuner in line. This was on the Sun. I was pushing about 3.4 watts. That's it, before the SWR went through the roof. So I was just tickling, you know, spitting a little bit of, basically a drizzle of RF out there. And good Lord, dude, I worked Finland, Sweden, Madeira Islands, the usual criminals, you know, nothing exotic. Couple stations here, one in Fiveland, Illinois, just in like a 15, 20-minute burst. You know, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool on 60. I think it was on channel 2 or channel 3. I can't remember which one. So now I'm trying to, I really am not in the mood to play antenna. It's too cold for that crap, and I don't do that. That dog won't hunt anymore. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what I can do, because the antennas I have, even the internal tuner in the 7300 won't tune it. So I loaded the BKW up with a manual tuner, but I really don't want to use that. So I'm trying to come up with a 60 meter antenna that will, you know, just a dipole. And I started looking around, and I don't have room, because it's still, you know, that's almost 100 feet long. And the pattern is full, Ghost Rider. There's not a lot of room here. So I thought about dropping the 15 meter dipole, which is hanging at about 90 feet. It's way up there. And putting in like a 60 meter loop. So that's what I'm kind of toying with at this point. The problem is I don't know if I'd spend enough time on it to justify it. You know what I'm saying? KI1N, K1GMM.
Yeah, the walk bands are funny, right? I just haven't, you know, gravitated toward them very much. But having said that, the other day I got on, and I think it was during the 10, it was probably Saturday when the 10 meter contest was on. And the bands were, you know, kind of, they were okay, but nothing special, right? There was,
doing something different.
There was a lot of activity on 10 meters, obviously, but none of it anything unusual. Just Europe, South America kind of thing. Azores, stuff like that. So I decided, for whatever reason, I tried 15. Didn't sound like as much on there. And I said, oh, let me just try 17 for what, I don't know why. So there were just 2 signals or 3 signals on it, so I decided to call CQ. I ended up having a QSO, a nice QSO for about an hour and a half. I said, wow, this is, 17 is not bad. And of course there's no QRM or anything, because not that popular, I guess. So I really probably should visit that band more often. And, for the 15 dipole, you could just add a 60-meter element on it, make it a little bit longer. A lot longer, I guess, huh? Yeah, a loop. Yeah, put it on, have it come back on itself, folded dipole. That would be great. So that would double the size, right? Still making it longer, but, you could actually go around a couple of times if you wanted to, back and forth like an S, to get something, unless you wanted it non-resonant. Boy, this Lux tuner does well. I forgot to switch antennas a while ago, and I was on the hex beam, which only goes down to 20, and I thought I was on the dipole, so I was going on 75, right? And it tuned it. It went through some regurgitations, but tuned it nonetheless. But I said, oh, wait, I could fix this. So, just the poor operator error. And I've been thinking about retiring for a few years, kind of why I started back into the radio. I said, well, I'm going to be retiring someday. I better get a hobby going, and my golf game was not improving by any means. It was going south. So I said, okay, I'll do the radio thing. So I started the station back up, but was reluctant to retire. It's not until the university does something to tick you off, right? And I said, oh, yeah? Well, I don't think I'm going to go along with that. So, and boy, the education system today, they just keep degrading stuff. And it's really to the point of ethics. And I am so disappointed in what's going on. And it's, get the students through, get the money, and good luck to them. If they want to, work like nitwits, more power to them. Just give them the degree. But I don't think you should give them the degree. I don't think you should even take all their money. You should let them know when they're really not doing very well, and they're reluctant to do that. So, but that's for-profit universities. There's a real conflict there of interest. So that's the deal with that. And what else will you say? Your audio, by the way, sounds great as always. I'm quite jealous. When I talk to you or I talk to Ron, B2RON, or some of the guys, I then say to myself, self? Okay, I'm going to get one of these boxes. I'm going to get it working. I got my latest box that I got, and I should preface with, I was going to, I set up VST host and also voice meter, potato, and was going to do that, but they were taking so much utilization from my CPU that I didn't think that was really a great idea anymore. So in midstream, I said, no, I'm going to get this box and try just putting it in line input on the G2. And this works. It's got, it's a Chinese, knockoff of something. And it's got 2 channels, and I think the 3rd channel is actually a gain channel for the effects thing. And it's got reverb and stuff like that. And I just haven't figured out how to minimize the reverb effect enough without losing all the audio. But that's probably just me not knowing what the hell I'm doing, and I had something turned on here. That's interesting. Anyway, so, and then I put that aside because, it's not really all that important, and I've got other things that caught my priority, like my resigning or retiring and then getting into this book thing. So my wife was finally the ultimate suggester. So when she suggests something, I kind of tend to listen. So, and then I can always blame her if something doesn't work. See how that works? K1GMM, KI1.
Oh yeah, dude. You got to do that. That's what you have to do. You have to set it up to pass the buck, and blame somebody else. That's the way it works, baby. Yeah, it's funny. Well, you got better things to do, like actually talk on the radio. See, that's the point I have come to quite a while ago. And, oh, there's Scott. I am streaming this, so you can see exactly. I got a great signal on you. Scott just jumped in, W1SBW. Jeez, I haven't heard from him in a while. Let's see. Boy, you touched on a bunch of things. Yeah, and if everybody's got a breaking point, right? You're putting up with all this garbage from your employer. I mean, college. That's your employer, right? There's a breaking point there, especially if you're close to retirement. And that's kind of what I did. Of course, I had multiple variables in play. There was a lot of chaos going on when I shut down the wedding photography. So, but I've gotten back into photography, small birding and stuff like that. Songbirds, built a little wildlife songbird preserve on the property. I got woodpeckers that I used to have to shoot all three variants of woodpeckers: red bellies, hairies, downies. We do have pileated woodpeckers around, but they're few and far between, and they're very elusive. I used to have to shoot those bad boys from a blind, and now I know I'm digressing. Now I have a piece of paracord between two trees, and I have sticks. I call them the sticks. They're about 3 feet long. And I have them drilled out with spade bits, and then I pack them with suet. Now I can go out. The red bellies are still a little timid, but I can stand about 20 feet away, 25 feet away, and move around, and they'll be there on the sticks. I don't bother them. But the hairies and the downies, they'll be right on the tree, right next to where I'm hanging up to the stick, 2 feet away, balking at me. It's hilarious, dude. You should hear them talk. All complaining and balking, and I don't know what they're doing. It's like a circus out there. And it's actually nerve-wracking because they fly right over my head, man. I can hear their wings, and they scoot from side to side waiting for me to finish hanging up the sticks. If I wanted to, man, I could reach out and snatch the life out of one of them. And there'll be, oh my gosh, now 6, 8 of them, 9 of them. All swooping around, waiting for me to hang up the sticks, and they're like my pets now. It's really, really cool. Got some neat pictures too. Captured a brown thrasher, it's called. Never seen one before. Caught him this spring. Got a great picture of him. Of course, I retooled all my photography gear for long range stuff. Picked up some new extreme high-end glass. Had to sell my firstborn and my left nut to get my hands on that stuff, but it's worth it. Yeah, that's what I was doing, yeah. And I just saw a brown creeper, it's called. He's back. And I had a pair of them last February, and they disappeared, and he's back. I saw him this morning. I was like, check it out. They're kind of cool. So a brown creeper, you can tell it's a creeper if you're a distance away because they run up the tree. As opposed to a nuthatch, they're always upside down going down the tree. That's one indication right there that it's not a nuthatch. That's what tipped me off. I thought it was a nuthatch. I'm like, what the heck is that? So I grabbed a picture of it. It wasn't a very good picture. and it was low light, and the ISO was pretty high. And I looked it up, looked at the picture. It was a brown creeper. I thought it was a nuthatch, but I noticed his behavior was very strange. So, yeah, enough of the birds. Yeah, the audio thing, man, dude. I got everything set and just want to run the radio at this point. So that happened. I don't know. It started settling down. Like I was off the radio from like December of last year through July of this year. So when I got back in and lit everything back up, and I didn't even turn the radio on, dude. I lit everything back up, and I just decided, enough is enough. So we all talk about it. It's a rabbit hole you can go down, but it's very dangerous because it kept me from actually being on the radio, So no, it's good. I just run with it. Everything's set. I don't touch it, dude. The only thing I've been working on is the AM modulation, which I have come across some very interesting things with the help of other people. So I just put up a video on that with these SDRs. Boy, I don't know how long that over was, but it's probably 5 minutes, and my apologies. KI1N, K1GMM.
K1GMM from Kilo India 1 November. I don't think it was that long, but all good. Well, as you probably know, I used to run a photo finishing lab and digital imaging center, and we would get all kinds of enthusiasts in, astrophotography and wildlife and, the whole kind of gamut of creatives and whatnot. And at one point we had a bird watcher, and but we didn't have many. And the nice thing about running a photo lab or a digital imaging center is you get to go around the world and experience everyone else's photographic work, right? And there are so many brilliant photographers out there that it's just, a real thrill sometimes. I remember there are some pictures that are just quite memorable. One customer had a picture he took of the Chinese wall. He had gotten up before dawn, and instead of having crowds of people on the wall, it was completely empty, had a slight mist. You could see the wear on the stone steps of millennia of people walking on it, wearing it out, kind of like the Colosseum, You walk those steps and those stones are all worn down smooth, right? Like you could have put them through a polisher, a rock polisher or something. So we get to see things that are just, really, really great. I was doing some high-risk scanning for a museum archive once, and we did glass plates of the aftermath of Custer's last stand.
Hey,
and so
Hi, Ray.
These are pictures of people who had been killed on the ground, and they don't kill somebody with... I thought it was just that it took 5 or 6 arrows to kill someone after seeing this, because everybody had 5 or 6 arrows in them. And I was describing this one day to somebody, and somebody jumped in and said, no, you're mistaken. That's actually a result of the hate the Indians had for the white man, that even though people were dead, they were just filling them with arrows out of pure visceral hate. So interesting what you come across, right? And we did things of the 49 Gold Rush, just some really wonderful shots. So photography is great. And as a result, it's almost like it kind of makes me realize that whatever photos I'm taking are not going to be up to snuff, right? But every once in a while, I do grab the camera, and I've got, 2 dozen. I used to have a small group of camera stores that I ran also. And so I've got a closet full of cameras and lenses and stuff. But about 5 years ago, I was going on a trip and I wanted a camera more suited for that. So I got a Sony digital camera, an RX 400V, I think it is. And it's got a couple of advantages. First of all, it's got a dynamic range of about 20 stops, easy, just by stitching multiple frames together on the fly and rendering it right in the camera. And also it's got a 35 millimeter or equivalent focal length of like 21 to 1200 millimeters zoom on it. So a couple of years ago, I had a peregrine falcon here that had just landed on a tree stump in the back woods. And I saw him. I go to the back door. I've opened the slider a little bit, and sure enough, he's just standing there, right? So I grab the camera, and I zoom out, and now it's a waiting game for him to look at me, right? So, oh my God, I must have been standing there 5 minutes. It was almost like a GMM transmission. No, I'm only kidding, little joke. But I'm standing there, and he's looking everywhere but at me. But I take a few shots, but I'm waiting. Finally hits me, right? Looking me right in the lens. Boom, got it. What a great shot. Just standing there looking right at me, both eyes, right? So, and I knew it was a peregrine falcon, not because I'm big into birds, but as a child, I was big into the Hardy Boys series of books. And one of the books was titled The Peregrine Falcon. And it had a picture of, guess what? A falcon on the cover. So I don't know. I just remembered it. So, and of course, I identified it correctly, as other people later told me. But, so every once in a while I'll get a good shot. And I'll be traveling again this April, so I'll be taking the camera and trying to do some creative stuff. Just for us, And still love photography. But boy, have things changed. So I ran my own company in that industry for 35 years. And you can imagine going from, full-blown darkroom work. I built a darkroom in my basement. Finally had a full-blown custom color darkroom with all kinds of analyzers and stuff for specialized work up to 24 by 36 sheet paper. Can you imagine? That was just neat stuff, putting that through a processor, seeing it come out. And later on went digital, of course, and the high-res scanners. We had $150,000 scanners doing the commercial stuff. So a lot of fun. And I understand when you take a break off the air, but you gotta keep up with why we got on the air in the first place. Even though messing about with the technical stuff is also a lot of fun, and I've gone down that rabbit hole, as you know, a number of times. K1GMM, KI1N.
Yeah, I'm going to start my egg timer. We're underway. Because I've been on AM, you do these old geezer overs that are like, sometimes you hear an over that's like 15, 20 minutes long. It's like, good Lord. So anyways, I got to make sure I keep it pithy. That's an interesting perspective, seeing everybody's work. Doing what you did. It's also, I would imagine, it's inspirational because I don't follow a lot of people, but I'm on Flickr and I follow some of the stuff people do. And man, dude, it is amazing. I'm not talking about bird photography. I'm talking about, all kinds of different stuff. Landscape. Street photography is fascinating to me. I love street photography. Haven't done that much of it. I've done some HDR photography on the street, but in daylight, but nighttime, oh my gosh, really, really cool stuff. If you look at my QRZ page, I made it a mission. I knew the eclipse was coming, right? So I wanted to photograph some red bellies during the eclipse, and really, really interesting light, man. I was out there the whole time through the eclipse, and I got a ton of captures, but I threw a few of them on my QRZ page. And it's really interesting light. I'm trying to think what it compares to. It was just very odd. And the way it rendered, that was really cool. Yeah, I kind of burned out on all that stuff because you mentioned the technical stuff. I kind of torched myself, and everybody knew it. So, I came back in and I made some of the stuff available that I use, and so people can get their hands on it. It's all free. They want to play with it, go for it. If doesn't work for them, whatever. So I'm pretty much done with that. There's nothing more I can do, Bob. It's like it's been completely exhausted, and nor do I have a desire. So I'm just really happy to get these rigs, these SDRs running exactly the way I want them to run, and to sound the way I want them to sound. And for the first time in a few years, I can actually enjoy running the radio. 2 minutes, 45 seconds. NI1N, K1 GMM.
So you remind me of a fella on AM. I've run into him on AM, and nice guy. And I've run into him also on sideband. He's called me when I'm in queue, so and he'll come in, and I won't mention his call sign, but he'll come. He actually came into a queue, so it was in progress, and
hey, what's going
he
on,
started
Darren?
broadcasting. And after, I don't know,
all is
10
well
or
there,
15
dude.
minutes,
Merry Christmas.
the
Happy
rest
New
of
Year.
us in that queue said, okay, I think we've had enough of this, and we all QSY'd, right? And just left him there talking. I don't know how long he remained transmitting, but it was just ludicrous. So, yeah, I think the FCC has a rule about broadcasting. And at least ID every 10 minutes, but that wasn't happening, that's for sure. So that seems to be the kind of the realm of AM is long overs, right? And I'm not sure where that came from, but we used to do it years ago too, and it now seems like maybe that's not what we're after. So. I've gotten on AM a couple of times with the G2, and people tell me it sounds great, and they're really surprised. When it was my first time, they were shocked on 38 something. Is it 3885 or I forget where they are, but they were shocked that it was my first time, because usually when somebody gets on, I guess they have a lot of audio issues that need resolving, but they said I was doing really well. But I don't know, I never really gotten back to it. And as far as the birds, yeah, and I was very privileged, really privileged eye to look at or work with people, because they would look for advice on exposure and dynamic range. I'll tell you one quick story. My Sony, I'll tell you how technology has changed, right? So I was in Auschwitz in Poland, and taking pictures inside the prisoner barracks, which were long rectangular buildings with very dark wood for the bunks. They were just wood planks, right? But the wood was black, from the sweat of all the prisoners' stuff and the wearing and whatnot. And there was no electricity in these buildings, and there were 3 windows. And so you can imagine all completely dark inside, very hard to see just with your eyes. You couldn't see down the entire length of the room, but you could see these windows and some backlit light coming in, right? But extreme contrast there. So I wanted to take some pictures. So flash would not have replicated the mood or the sense of the scene. So what I did was just left it on program, and the Sony decided, and I had the window in the frame, so I've got the specular highlight in the frame plus deep shadow, right? So the Sony decided to take 7 frames and did so in less than 500 milliseconds, and within 800 or 900 milliseconds, less than a second, actually rendered the picture. Stitched those frames together with the ADD converter, put them together, and maximized the dynamic range. It's 20 stops, right? And I saw every shadow detail you can imagine. Plus, I could see everything outdoors, the sunlight, the trees, or it wasn't trees, it was actually another barracks, but see everything faithfully outdoors. I mean, if I did that with film, you know the gyrations I would have had to go through, right? First of all, I'd be sandwiching negatives together because film only has maybe a 10 or 11 stop range, whatever kind of film you're using, right? And I needed 20 stops. So you're already looking at multiple exposures and then, some magic in the darkroom, stuff like that. So, in less than a second I had it there. I mean, how beautiful is that? K1GMM, KI1N.
That's pretty cool. That's wild. We live in an amazing time. Regarding technology and all this stuff. It's just it's insane what you can do with some of these things. I'm more about the glass. I just picked up a 200 to 400 f4L IS Canon. It's got the equivalent sharpness of sharpest glass on the face of the earth, the 400 f2.8, but it's a 200 to 400 zoom. What a freaking monster this thing is, dude. Plus, it has a 1.4x teleconverter built into it, which is actually matched. The optics are actually matched with a teleconverter to the optics in the lens. That's a game changer. I bought that for the small bird photography because I use a 32 megapixel 1.6 sensor, which gives me the effective focal range of about 900 millimeters. So it's been a godsend. Most of these birds I can't get that close to unless I remote it, which I have done, which is okay. But I got to go mirrorless. I'm trying to figure out if I should go mirrorless or not, because that's I don't know. I maybe in the future. The problem is I don't buy any technology that is cutting edge. I let it settle for a little while. There's a lot of mirrorless cameras out there which are literal pieces of junk. Unreliable. They have failures. When Canon went mirrorless, and I'm a Canon guy, so I've always had Canon stuff. So eventually I'm probably going to go that route. I don't know. But I'm not serious enough right now to do that. So I'm kind of, I don't know, thinking about putting up a website. Oh, actually, I have a website completely developed. It's just not online yet. Yes, they are, Darren. That's a $12,000 piece of glass, and I bought it for $4,000 used. Absolutely mint. Absolutely cherry. So that's, I don't know. I'm not sure what I should do, but I have a lot more work to do, so I figured, and I can run the EF lenses on a mirrorless camera, so that's okay. And you know what I mean? I mean, Canon, they're just starting to come out with some decent, I think they're RF, right? RF lenses for mirrorless cameras. Yeah. I think I'm going to wait a little bit longer, maybe a couple years, 2 or 3 years before I go mirrorless. I follow a guy online. He still uses, believe it or not, an old 1D. He does some of the best wildlife photography on the face of the earth. I can't remember his name. I follow him on BoobTube. And he still runs, believe it or not, a 1D. Canon 1DS Mark. I can't remember the mark, the actual version of it. Absolutely stellar. And he has a 200-400 actually. That's where I first saw it. I was like, wow, what an amazing piece of glass that is. As well as a ton of other things. But he also runs mirrorless, but he uses like the 1DS a lot. So you know what I mean? I'm not too much into the cameras. I'm more into the glass. The glass is what gets it. And I have, I've done some extensive testing with that 200-400, and if people think that speed isn't important with this new technology, well, that's a bunch of bull crap. Running a 900 millimeter at f5.6 with the same sharpness as a 400-2.8 is terrifying, dude. And not to mention a 200-400 f4 constant aperture with the same sharpness as a 400-2.8. That's just completely ridiculous in a zoom. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, to me, it's all about the glass. K1 GMM.
Well, that's certainly a critical link in the chain, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate differentiator of image quality, assuming that you've got the mechanics squared away. Well, there used to be years ago that, if you wanted glass, I mean, it was Schneider or Zeiss or Leitz. I mean, those were the three. Everybody would swear about Leica having the best glass, but I think even Leitz used Zeiss occasionally as an OEM. I think that was a secret. But I started with Canon. I started selling Canon when they did not have a U.S. distributor presence themselves. They didn't own it. They used a distributor, Bell and Howell. I'm sure you remember that. And so it was Bell and Howell Canon, and that was right on the faceplate. And they had rangefinder cameras, and then they came out with the FTQL. I don't know if you remember those, the FTQL and the Pelix QL. The Pelix had a two-way mirror, so it never flipped. So the mirror was always in the light path. So that was kind of an interesting take, although it did have a little bit of absorption of light, but not much, but for refracting up to the prism. And so it did, you lost maybe a quarter of a stop or something, maybe not even that much. So anyway, FTQL. My first Canon camera that I was using was an FTB, and I had 3 or 4 lenses for it, manufacturer lenses, Canon lenses. I think they were FD lenses at the time. And I also had Nikons, and I had the Nikkormat, Nikon EM, FM, FTN, F, and I think there was another one that I had. I remember I took a whole bunch one time on a cruise and forgot to write myself up with it, and coming back to customs, wasn't that a joke? They wanted to charge me something, I don't know, a lot of money. And I said, no, I had these. I didn't buy them, and it took some eloquent talking or negotiation to get through that. That was kind of weird. But yeah, Canon, Nikon, Hassie. I used a Rollei SL66. That had a Schneider lens on it. Let me tell you, that was a piece of glass. That was beautiful for its day. Nowadays, they've got much better technology, but don't forget.
That's funny, man.
That was 100-year-old technology we were using in the optics.
Mark,
basic. Well, no, I shouldn't say
II?
that, because we had multi-coated lenses, things like that. So
great
yeah, they
camera,
were improved.
full frame sensor. If that's the one,
there have been
I have a 5D,
much more improvement since I
Mark II?
left.
I think it's a Mark II, full-frame sensor,
the
Darren.
industry some 22
Great
years
camera.
ago now.
I use
Oh my
it
God, what an old
exclusively
fart,
for
right?
landscape photography and stuff like that.
It's sad when you start
Dynamite.
seeing the world go by and you're not a part of it anymore. K1GMM, KI1N.
Oh, isn't it K1GMM? Wow. Yeah, you've been playing in that realm a lot longer than I have. Good Lord. What was my first camera? My first camera all the way back from when I was in high school. It was a Graflex. My father gave it to me. Old Graflex from like the 1950s. Took awesome pictures, man. I think it was a Graflex. And then I picked up was it a Fuji? Don't ask me the exact model number. It was a Fuji. And then I jumped into Canon. I think it was an A1P. And then I picked up a T90, great camera. I think it was called a T90. It was kind of like the first breakthrough of their modern camera, kind of modern designs. Remember that old T90? I think that was from what, the 80s? Early 90s or something like that. Yeah, don't hold me to that. Probably got my dates all screwed up. Hey, listen, before I wanted to jump, I was curious. I remember you mentioning a while back on the G2, you had to tear into that thing and see if you could figure out what was going on with the mic inputs. I'm not sure if that's what the issue was, but let me tell you what I had going. Well, I haven't touched it. That's why I use a sound card. The sound card is just so clean, and I don't have to jerk around with anything. I had a lot of problems. I never could get the XLR input to work. Don't ask, dude. I tried everything. Couldn't get that to work on the G2. The mic input did work in the back, and I think on the front, the line in, no idea. Couldn't get that friggin' thing to work. But the only way I could get the mic ALC, the mic gain, to actually function the way I think it's supposed to function is to use a sound card. And that's why I'm using the sound card. So I was curious if you want to run me, I'm streaming this, so people, this is what I really wanted to do, is to get some information out there, because I know you have a lot of experience with this. So I'll let you have it, man, and you can go ahead and let me have it. And you don't have to go too deep, but I know you did some tweaking in there. KI1N, K1GMM.
Yeah, well, that's actually an interesting scenario, K1GMM from KI1N, because here's a manufacturer that sends a piece of equipment out, and all of a sudden the customers are telling them, hey, well, this is not working, that's not working, and the response is, well, we don't know. We don't have a fix for it. So, kind of leave it at that. So I went to the guys on the forums and stuff, and there was one fella in Germany.
Kodak.
I forget Volker, his name is. I forget his call sign. Have it here somewhere. But he was gracious enough to send me a fix for the front microphone connector. It's wired perversely. I had determined that it was wired incorrectly, because for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I could not get rid of audio garbage and all kinds of noise in it, and what is going on? So I finally
I believe it, John.
put an unwired
it's going to get wild, man.
TRS just into the socket and started hunting with the ohm meter to say, where the hell are the leads going? So the hot audio lead was on the shield. I'm not kidding you. That's where hot audio had to go, and the return was on the ring, and there was no connection for the tip. So that was the secret for that. And I actually wired a microphone that way just to get it working, my D104. So I did that, and then I went to the rear connector. The rear connector was wired properly. So I told Apache Labs, hey, this thing is, and Doug, the service guy in Arkansas, said, well, that's a surface mount component. It's not wired. It's just a surface mount. And we'd have to, butcher the ribbon cable to try and fix it. Well, Volker did. He figured out the cross connections, sent them to me, and I did them, put a new ribbon cable together, got plugs, and the plugs are a little different than, they're keyed differently than the Indian standard, I guess, but these still work that you get in the U.S. So I had asked Doug, well, why don't you guys just, do you have, a fix just for the new ribbon cable? No, we don't have a workaround yet. So anyway, I did that, and that fixed the front plug. And the rear XLR socket, I was getting an echo on that audio. And again, the response was, we don't know. We're working on it. We think it's a software issue, and Lawrence is working on it. So anyhow, I found from someone else, I forget who, that they determined the plastic socket was not bonding to the chassis, so the ground wire coming up from the audio PC board was just floating. So with the floating ground, we got an echo. So the fix for that is just switch it out. And you have to buy 5 of these things, I think. So I've got a few extra metal sockets. I just switched that out. Echo's gone. So the XLR works perfectly fine now. And of course, it's not XLR. It's a balanced 1/4-inch jack, right? And, I thought back, how stupid was I? I should have just got an XLR socket for it. But then I would have had to have gotten a die to punch the hole bigger anyway. So that's the fix. It's just a new ribbon cable crossing over pins 9 and 10 for the jumper going from the Saturn board to P5 on the display board. Papa 5, that's the connector whose ribbon cable you want to shift. And the XLR, you just need the metal standard 1/4-inch socket, and that'll fix the worries with that audio. So that was a long transmission, sorry. K1GMN, KI1N.
No, I wanted it to be a good transmission. In depth. Wow. That's crazy, dude. It kind of fits. It does kind of fit from from Apache Labs. As good as these radios are, you know what I call them? Did I tell you this? It's been a long time. We chatted, months ago, I think. Maybe back this summer. I call them basically a laboratory experiment, because that's what you get. I mean, you never know what you're going to get when you order one of these things new from the manufacturing. You get it and you go, what the heck? It's almost like you have to light it up, check everything. Okay, this works, this doesn't work, something's wrong here. You take it, you throw it over on your station, and you start digging. Grab your meter, scopes, you name it, and start diagnosing. And it's like an electronic laboratory experiment. That's why I always tell people they are not for the faint of heart. If you're going to order one of these things, you better knuckle up and get ready. Maybe you get lucky. A lot of people get lucky. Some people, like you, me, I've read, I know someone who is very, very skilled with electronics, surface mount, everything. And he told me, this was a few years ago when I had the 200D, and he's got a bunch of Anans, multiple flexes. And he told me, he says, Anan takes, they'll be lacking in a specific value of a resistor or something like that. And he knows this for a fact because he's had to go in and fix stuff. And he says, not right. But they use them to get them going. They run, but yeah, usually something rears its ugly head. So fast forward, right? He says very common. Anan does that all the time. Apache Labs does it. And fast forward to, I don't know, this is about a year ago. year or two ago, I was talking to a friend of mine. He might be listening, Jerry, W1JWC, down in Rhode Island. He wrote circuitry for nuclear submarines. And I told him about that, and he says, no, you can't do that. If a circuit requires a specific value of a component, you don't vary that component, So there you go. That was confirmation. I trust what he says because of what he used to do. So, you look at this stuff and you go, what the flippin' heck are they thinking? But see, in the past, they could get away with that, Bob. Now they can't. These freaking radios are expensive. I would never buy a new G2 and pay that kind of money for it. Not a chance in hell. I got this for about $3,000, which is probably about $500 more than what it's actually worth, because there are issues with some of the inputs. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, there is no excuse for that. When you pay this kind of money for a transceiver, no, that dog won't hunt. To me, anyways. What did I do with my remote? I'm triggering the radio with a little iPad port. I couldn't find it. K1GMM, go ahead.
That's like, where are my keys, right? K1GMM from KI1N. Yeah, well, you have to kind of go into these things with your eyes wide open.
Oh, yeah, Darren, right? That's gone.
And I just gotten back in the hobby a couple of years prior.
A G2
and I had maxed out the 7300 and wanted to get into something that would provide me with some, journey to travel down, learn more stuff, right, and experience the newest technology. So it was pretty much, this is the Flex, I felt. And people were complaining a lot about the Flex, and Anan, the complaints hadn't risen too much yet on the boards. And I thought, okay, seems all right. And then, of course, once I got, and this was an early release, once I got this and then noticed a couple of issues, and other people were noticing stuff, And some people were telling me I'm crazy for keeping it. Just send it back. And,
does on the Anan.
But, I wanted to be able to use the technology and go down that path.
So I kind of requires a specific value on, let's say, a resistor, you better put that value in there.
So I wasn't, completely shocked. And would you want to run a company and put a product out like this? No, but don't forget, they were under a lot of pressure to release something, anything. When I first ordered a rig, I ordered the 7000 DLE Mark III. And after 2 months of them holding my money, they said, oh, by the way, we're not selling those anymore. We can't get the FPGA processor from Intel, so we switched. Now we think you should order the Andromeda. So, and that was an AMD devices, I think, processor rather than the Intel. So I said, okay, fine. So put me in for that. And then a month later, I got a call, said, oh, sorry, we're not selling that anymore either. Now we've gone to a Xilinx processor. So, but this is much better because you'll have two computers. You'll have the Pi HP SDR, the SDR Pi processor, and plus you'll have the Linux processor, the Xilinx chip. So I said, just send whatever you've got. Good, just send it. So that was how I ended up with the G2. But it is what it is. And I thought they had fixed these issues in later releases. And I could be wrong, but I had heard that, oh yeah, they've taken care of the mic input issues. So they might be resolved in the newer rigs. I don't know. But I did hear that anecdotally. So, but it's kind of what it is.
Sorry,
what it
Bob,
is
I'll
now.
take my
In
advice
contrast,
from a guy who wrote
I got
circuits
the
for a
Mercury
nuclear
amp,
submarine.
and I got it from
Say
a fellow
whatever
that
you
had
want,
it
dude.
only a few months and decided he wasn't going to keep it. So I didn't have to wait the year. I had my name in for one, but I had my name in for the 3S, and this is the Lux. And he said, well, I'm not going to keep this if you'd like this, and I had helped him reprogram something, I forget what. He says, I'll sell it to you for what I paid for it. And I said, fine. such a deal. So I got that, like a month later. So and the Lux has been, should I say this, within earshot, the Lux has been perfect. Not an issue with it. Works beautifully. The only thing is it doesn't like SWR, so I had to get the tuner as well. But with that combination, it works fine. By the way, getting back to you were talking about mirrorless, just to switch the whole conversation back again.
Buttercup.
You were talking about mirrorless cameras, and the Sony I have is a mirrorless, and mirrorless has come a long way. So if you were to get a mirrorless, you would have the advantage of not only being able to follow your subjects in fast motion, like sporting events and stuff, taking pictures without any blackout of the mirror, but you'd also be able to do video. And you could do 4K, 8K, what are they up to these days? At least 8K. So if you ever got the urge to experiment with some video stuff, high res, you'd have that as well. K1GMM, KI1N.
Oh, yeah. KI1N. That is supposedly one of the big advantages of the mirrorless systems. The problem is the heat. A lot of these cameras generate excessive heat if you go a certain length of time, and that's why I bought the 90D, is because it's got an excellent, I think it does do 4K video, but it's not, it's a very well-built design for video, even though it's not mirrorless, That's another reason why I want to go to mirrorless. But I'm kind of, it's a waiting game. I'm waiting. I think there's other cameras, like I've looked at the Sonys. Sonys are awesome. Almost went to a Sony. Almost pulled the trigger on that. But it's so hard, dude. You read, you can probably attest to this. Opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one. They all stink like a septic tank, right? So you get on these, I watch these videos of all these different cameras, and I'm telling you, man, I walk away with my head spinning. I don't even know what to believe, dude. You know what I mean? I think as good as everything is getting, you're pretty much splitting hairs at this point, and I think it comes down to what are you using it for, because a lot of these cameras are kind of specialized for very specific application, right? So you have a camera that may be phenomenal for landscape photography, architectural photography. Of course, you want your tilt shift lenses, but they're plenty adequate for that. They may not have a high enough frame rate for, let's say, if you're going to do, birds in flight, hummingbird photography. The frames per second may not be enough, to get that one perfect grab. But you don't need that in landscape photography. I mean, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? So I had to figure out my budget. I wanted to put the money into the glass. So I started looking at cameras that would somehow give me the ability to get from point A to point D. You know what I mean? And it's a hard thing, man, because you're also talking, some of these cameras are big bucks. They're freaking more money than I spent on that 200 to 400. So I don't know. What do you think the time frame is? What do you think the time frame is for the technology to become really reliable and affordable? Affordable being the key word, right? I don't know if you're still into it heavy, but kind of curious what your thoughts are on that. Are we 2 years out, 1 year out? The reason why I ask is because I follow this one guy. He said he dumped his mirrorless camera. He went back to a 90D because the thing was a piece of crap. And it was a good camera. I think it was an R3 or something like that. Canon R. Those things are not cheap, dude. Yeah, he dumped it. he had multiple failures with that camera, so he went back to the one I'm shooting with. So I'm kind of wondering what the time frame is, if that is. And this was last December, January. So I haven't looked, but I'm curious as to where he's at, if he's moved back into the mirrorless realm, and if he's found something that does it for him. KI1N, K1GMM.
Well, K1GMM, KI1N, a lot of it comes into pushing pixels, right? And, they got all these super high-res sensors and huge files, and everything is in RAW, and, it's going for the purist, right? And, this is, you can do a 5 by 12-foot poster, no problem. At gargantuan file sizes to hold the specular highlights in the eyeball or something. I mean, there are some crazy ass capabilities, but if you bring it down to pragmatic stuff, I think the overheating and the big red box issues with the huge pixel pushing things, where you spend a fortune, you don't even get a lens, right? And you've got to kind of build the back and the front and everything else. I wouldn't go that way. I would go cheap. I mean, my Sony HX400, whatever the hell the number is on it. I had gone into the store, and it's my friend's store, but it doesn't matter. I went in and I had predetermined that I probably needed a couple of $1,000 camera for what I wanted to do, right? So, I think you could do it with this, be no problem. So you know what? It was $500 or something, $600, $550. I mean, it was nothing. And when you get something like that, the chances of it overperforming are a lot better than when you get the $10,000 or $12,000 camera, because now you expect everything from that sucker. And if it fails in any one way, it's like, I spent all this money. It's like buying some of these SDR radios. You spend $4,000 on a rig, and then what? The plugs don't work? What the hell is that, right? So if you go in low, first of all, you get the experience of the mirrorless camera, and you can compare it with what your expectations are for the other cameras, right? It didn't cost you an arm or a leg. It's not a big investment. You can always sell it to somebody else if you don't like it. Take $100 off, and you've basically rented it for 6 months or whatever. So I would put my toes in the water before I made a big commitment, because, as you suspect, the technology on those things is changing exponentially faster than it used to change. So, if you're not ready to go in full bore, and I know you're not, just from what you're saying, I would say go low and check out the new technology first and see what your thoughts are. And the Sony mirrorless, that's a fixed, it's doesn't even have interchangeable lenses, but it's got 21 to 1200 millimeter optical zoom, and more if you use a software zoom. Not that you would, right? And more than enough pixels, by the way. And by the way, going back, I used to use the Graflex, the Speed Graflex camera, 4x5, for high school candid photos with a number 2 strobe, graphic strobe, strapped over my shoulder, because you had 500-volt batteries,
that
and
is
a couple
crazy.
of them weighed, I don't know, 8-10 pounds, something like that. And of course, the camera weighed probably 5 pounds. And the film holders, and that was a lot of fun. It had tilts and swings and all that stuff on it. But you can even do that in software these days, so it's not the biggest deal in the world anymore to have it mechanically available when you can do it post-process, right? K1GMM, KI1N.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What a great point. See, and I'm glad you said that. Puts things in perspective. That's exactly what I should do. I should just check it out. I can get an adapter. to adapt the EFs that I have to. I'd even buy a used one, something that is in good working order. You know, not a like what I'd call a throwaway, but something somewhat decent. You get them like your first gen, just to check it out. That's a great point. You know what scares me is, you know, when you do something like that, and in the back of your mind you're thinking, I'm going to really love this, and this is going to mess me up big time. That's probably what's going to happen. So, and another thing is they're very quiet because there's no mirror slapping back and forth at, 10, 15 frames per second. If you're close, like I do shoot from a blind often, and the birds could be 15 feet away, 20 feet away, they don't see me in there. And, that you kick that thing on, and a lot of times it does scare the wildlife. There's a lot of comments about that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna take a look. See what I can't remember because it's been months. Take a look at some of these cameras and take a look at the used market and see what's kind of out there, and go back and see what their strengths and weaknesses are, and if it would be kind of something I could, like you said, dip my toe in the water, just kind of get a feel for it. You know what I mean? The catch is I'd want to be able to sell it for what I bought it for, right? That's the catch, or very close to. Now, you're not going to do that with a new camera. So, yeah, interesting. I really wasn't expecting to. I forgot that you were heavily into this stuff. So I'm actually glad, because you triggered something that I need to take a serious look at. I am going to tuck tail and run. It's 12 o'clock. We're going to be doing lunch. I hear the wife moving around upstairs, and very cool. I appreciate you, Bob, taking some time and allowing me to yak a little bit on. Oh, and you made a comment really quick. I got to tell you about this. I'm sorry. I know this over is another long one. I'll try and keep it short. You mentioned a few overs ago, remember we were talking about AM, and you didn't say the amount of time that this guy went, or I don't even know if it was on AM or sideband. So going way back, this is 2016, I was on 40 meters here. I'm pretty sure it was 40 meters. And a friend of mine lives in Rutland, which is, he was in south of Middlebury. So it's like 50 minutes away, north of me, right? So, and we're on a VoIP system. We're on All-Star. And I was on the radio, and I was talking to this guy, and I thought, let me call Mike. So I called Mike on All-Star, and I said, hey, Mike, jump in. He had basically an apartment HOA station there. I said, see if you can get this guy. Well, he jumped in, and he got him. I don't know what happened, Bob. This guy went on for 35 minutes straight in a 35-minute over. Finally, we were laughing so hard on the All-Star system. We were talking back and forth. After it got to about 15, 20 minutes, we were like, what the heck is going on here? This is on sideband here on 40 meters, 35-minute over. And we cleared. I just put my call sign in. He put his call sign in, and that was it. But we were still listening. He went on for like 45 to 50 minutes, if my memory recalls, in a single over. I've never heard that since, but that was flippin' hilarious. I'll let you tie it off. KI1N, K1GMM, I'm going to go get some chow.
Yeah, well, it's really nice to hook up with you again. Yeah, it's been since July we spoke last, so good to catch up. And hey, look, I appreciate you, all of the videos you've done, and the help you've offered people. I mean, it's that's really you've helped more people than I'm sure you can imagine. and that kind of stuff goes a long way. And that's the real spirit of the radio hobby, right? By the way, I forgot to mention, you were talking about birds, and for Christmas, our kids have gotten us. The only reason I know this because one of my daughters accidentally had it shipped to our house, but it's a Christmas present, so we had to give it back to them because it was Christmas. But it's they got us one of those bird feeders that has the webcam in it or video, whatever it is, so you can see the birds come in and eating and stuff like that. So I mean, how cool is that, right? And it's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, whatever. So we'll be able to check out the birds in our area here more closely because it gives you a real good close-up. So at least according to the advertisements. So we'll see how that goes. That seemed like it would be quite a hoot. So looking forward to that. And yeah, on the Mirrorless, it's stupid. They emulate the shutter speed, the shutter release noise, right, with a fake noise. But I think you can turn that off, which you want to. I mean, you don't really need that. The slightest little indication that it's taken the picture would be good, but not something noisy like some of the cameras have on them. So yeah, I would suggest going that way, and you'd know a lot more in 2 weeks, and you'd be free to be critical with yourself because you wouldn't have that big of an investment in it. Oftentimes, when we spend a fortune, we're less critical about or less honest with ourselves about how well it's working because we know we're committed to it, right? So, at least some of us. So, yeah. Well, look, you have a great lunch. Nice catching up with you again, Steve, in 73. K1GMM, Kilo India 1 November. Bye-bye.
Okay, yeah, we'll catch you later, Bob. Have a good day. Those before you go, really quick, answer this. I don't know if you can answer this question. Excuse me. I am looking for a webcam. Hold on. Got a tickle in my throat. I'm looking for a webcam that can handle a high contrast situation. You know how where you have snow? Because I've been using an old cell phone. It's actually a pretty good cell phone, Samsung. It's got a great camera on it. Using it as a webcam down here in the shack, so I have it in the picture window. And I have 3 bird feeders out there, so there's all kinds of chaos going on out there. And plus, I can see the mountain, I can see the snow coming down. Problem is, the snow creates a high contrast situation. You know what I'm talking about. So it's very difficult to get the birds sharp and visible in that high contrast environment with a strong backlit situation because the snow is so bright. Have you ever seen a webcam that can handle something like that? Go ahead.
I haven't physically looked for that, but I would suspect that dash cams would be your best bet because they're made for that shooting in the car plus shooting through the window at the brighter scene. So I think they're already established for a larger dynamic range to keep both of those scenes together. Go ahead.
Holy cow, I'm so glad I asked. I didn't even think of that. All right, I will look at that one. Yeah, because I really want to do that. I moved the shack down here 9 years ago, and it was up in the southeast corner of the main floor, which has a south-facing window and an east-facing window. And I have a brook that runs, 20 feet away down the edge of the property there on the south end. And it was just beautiful, being able to look out the window, listen to the birds, listen to the brook while I'm playing radio or whatever. And now, I'm in this dungeon. I've been down here for 9 years, and I'm sick of it. So I figured that'd be a good way to, I got a bunch of monitors here. I'll just throw it up on the monitor, and kind of give me some semblance of the outdoors, or being close. I kind of miss it. It is a cave, as we all know. If you're in the basement and no windows, it's a cave. We'll see you later, Bob. Have a good day, and we'll catch you soon, hopefully. KI1N, K1GMM, I'll be clear.
Yeah, I used to have a basement shack, and I agree. it is a cave. And I even had sliders going out the back to the backyard, but it still wasn't the same. Now I'm on an upper level and have a great view of the property and street and stuff. So it's a big difference. I think that having a monitor looking outside will be a great plus for you. Hey, 73, great talking to you, Steve. K1GMM, KI1N clear.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bob. K1GMM. All right, killing the stream. I'm out of here. See y'all later.